When I came to Middlefield in 1951, there weren't many trained staff there. I was trained at a large hospital in the south of England where it was very official and there wasn't much personalisation at that stage. But I found right away with Middlefield that it was a community hospital rather than very much a hospital that was regimental. It was part of the community. I felt that people around the hospital accepted the residents, and although there were very many large and expensive houses, no one really seemed to mind buying property adjacent to the hospital. In fact, I often felt that people were pleased to be able to get property near the hospital because it provided a service in the form of gardening for these people and domestic help. In the early days, we had tailor shops where clothes were repaired, we had a boot shop where all the shoes were repaired, and some were even made. We had mat making, brush making, and also gardening, which absorbed quite a few of our residents. We had greenhouse work and gross growing, we had a carpenter's shop, painter's shop, and there's usually only one or two with a team of patients who did all the painting of the hospital and that kind of thing. All our capable patients worked a 5.5 day week, working 5 days and a Saturday morning. They were paid, but really only a minimal amount. It was very small. And of course, they did get their clothes and everything. I felt that patients provided 75% of the labour force at the hospital, in my opinion, in the domestic work. In the kitchen, there was one cook and 5 or 6 patients, and they were supervised in preparing potatoes and vegetables and all that. In the hospital block, there was a couple of working patients who made all the beds and supported the dressing and feeding of the more disabled residents. That was the way throughout the hospital at the time. The more able ones helped in caring for the less able. The thing that amazed me when I came to Middlefield was that there was no locked doors. Although at the time the statutory regulations that there were all people were certified on the old Mental Health Acts, there were no locked doors and people were allowed to move freely if they were capable of doing so. They went out shopping, they went to the local community to work, they were very much involved. A lot of the local residents knew them very well. The licensing system only existed until 1960, and after 1960, the Royal Commission's report emphasised that everybody who wasn't a danger to themselves or to others should be made informal. The people that were let on licence were firstly known as certified mental defectives, which is terrible. But of course it was appropriate in those days. But they were certified mental defectives and they were sent out on licence. And when they were sent out on licence, they could be recalled or withdrawn at any time. Before the changes in the 1960s, we had cricket. Cricket was the highlight of the summer. We had fixtures with the local team in the local cricket league. We played the Gasworks, Barclays Bank, all the local people would come down and we beat them during our game of cricket. We had a very good team. It was a mixture of staff and patients. In 1961, I was appointed Assistant Chief Male Nurse. My main responsibility was then to find accommodation and positions for people that were capable of moving out. Things developed really after 1961, and the emphasis was on getting the people out, finding individual facilities for them too. We developed Unit 1 and Unit 2 to provide more individual space. The emphasis was on that. And later it was broken down into smaller living units, giving more personalisation. My other job was to bring industrial outwork into the hospital. Some residents worked putting Kirby grips onto paper cards for Newey Goodman. We had things set up so that the ones that couldn't count could fill one in, and then put 20 into a packet. I went over and found the jobs with people at Goodman's. They didn't pay us a lot, but it was terribly real. And Baker and Finnemore too. I had foot presses from them. They used to make these fixed washers. Smith, Stone and Knight, we used to make bags of all description for them. We set up jigs. I had chaps who were very talented and they made jigs for them so they could actually fold the paper properly. They folded them and glued them. The total job, thousands of them. But we lost that job. I remember when Smith, Stone and Knight moved to Bristol. That was a great loss to us. But then we got another firm for whom we used to make polythene plastic bags. There were lots of jobs like that. It was a hive of industry, really. When I arrived in 1951, the Highfield unit had 35 children. The overall range at Middlefield was, I suppose, about 10 to 90. When the Siegel report came out in 1967, which meant that all children had a right to a proper education and to go to school, all our children were transferred to Chelmsley Hospital. We had teachers, but we hadn't got the proper school structure, but they did at Chelmsley. All our children had to go there.